lot has happened since we last spoke. The Cubs were eliminated, the Dodgers won the World Series, but we are back yet again to talk Cubs baseball. Now look, I haven't done a face-to-face episode like this in quite some time. I did a lot of stuff on YouTube Shorts, but I am back now, obviously not in my dorm room anymore, in my beautiful apartment here in Phoenix, Arizona. And hey, a lot has happened with the Cubs. Of course, they make the National League Division Series, losing 5 games to those rivals up north in Milwaukee. But we have reached the offseason. Finally, we are now in the dead period until, well, the winter meetings happen in about 5 weeks. The GM meetings, though, are this week. And we have heard some rumblings about the Cubs, but first, we have to address the elephant in the room. There is nowhere to go. We have to talk about Kyle Tucker, his future, more or less, with or without the Cubs. That is the key talking point that we need to consider. Now, Tucker, going into the season, there is this looming thought. What are the Cubs going to do? Are they going to try to work out an extension, or is this going to be a one-hit wonder, one-year wonder type season? And look, as the season progressed, it became more and more unlikely that the Cubs, well, were not going to engage in contract extensions in season with Kyle Tucker. And we have reached the offseason. Since then, there has been no talk. There's been no contract extension talk with Tucker, making it look very likely that he is off to free agency and most likely to sign somewhere else. Maybe your Philadelphia's, your Los Angeles's, maybe even the Baltimore Orioles or Tampa Bay Rays, who are getting new ownership. Now, without Kyle Tucker, the Cubs are losing a player who, yes, he missed a bunch of time due to injuries, but still had nearly 600 plate appearances, 133 hits, 22 home runs, 25 stolen bases, a 266 average, 377 on base, an 841 OPS with a 136 WRC plus, second to Michael Busch on the team, who had a whopping 147 WRC plus. Tucker also had 4.5 WAR. Now, how are the Cubs going to make up those numbers? First, I want to talk about the internal options. Now, the first of those internal options, yes, it's Owen Casey. Look, Casey's 23 years old. He has basically reached his peak in the minor leagues. You know, a 937 OPS in AAA, a 551 slug. He's basically reached that peak that you can reach in the minor leagues, and it is now time to see what Owen Casey can do on the field at Wrigley Field and at the major league level. I mean, pros to Owen Casey, very young. He is a left-handed outfielder. The player the Cubs are losing in Kyle Tucker is also a left-handed hitting outfielder. Like I said, very good numbers at AAA. It's now time to prove it, though, at the major league level. 23 years of age. He is getting up there. He needs to perform now at the major league level. The time is now. There's a lot to like about Owen Casey, but there's also a lot to be concerned about, primarily his strikeout rate. Owen Casey never had a strikeout rate below 20% in the minor leagues. He had a strikeout rate near 30% as well. There's lots of uncertainty with a player like Casey. He's very boom or bust, very high potential with home runs. You know, he could hit 30 home runs at the major league level, but at the same time, he could strike out 200 times, and just a lot of risk. You know, going from a 4.5 WAR player to someone like Owen Casey, there's just a lot of uncertainty. And Fangraphs shares in that sentiment. Right now, Owen Casey's only projected for about 0.5 WAR in 2026, a just above league average OPS plus of 102, and only 8 home runs. If I'm the Cubs, I am not gambling on the risk of just having Owen Casey play right field or DH, platoon with Seiya Suzuki come opening day. Now, the second option, this is more so just best hitter available that the Cubs currently have, is Moises Ballesteros. Now, just like Owen Casey and Kyle Tucker, Moises is a left-handed bat. He is a very different player to Tucker and Casey, as he is a high contact guy. Elite contact rate, only a 13% strikeout rate in AAA in 2025. Very high OBP, upper 300s in the minor leagues. And he's a clutch hitter, and we saw his clutchness at the major league level. Against the Brewers, Freddie Peralta on the mound, Cubs trying to avoid a sweep, Ballesteros bases clearing double into the left center field gap. He is clutch. He is like Nico Horner. You want a player like Ballesteros coming up with runners on base. He's just not that fast. If he hits it on the ground, it's probably a double play. But he is clutch. He's going to make contact. He's going to put the ball in play. He's not going to strike out. Very similar profile to Nico Hoerner, which is a blessing, but it's also a curse. This team needs slug. They're potentially going to miss out on a 20 home run hitter. How are they going to make that up? It's not going to happen with Moises Ballesteros. He has never hit over 19 home runs in a season in the minor leagues. He really doesn't have a position. I saw him in spring training this last spring. Not an MLB catcher. Very sluggish behind the plate. It's a developmental position. You could see him going there someday. You could see him at first base, but again, he's not that tall. Just not a great place for Moises to be in. He's a positionless player. Great bat, just nowhere to put him in the field right now. And if you look at his projections for the 2026 season, of course, Fangraphs is going to be a bit conservative. Right now, they have him at a .7 WAR, but in 111 OPS plus and WRC plus. Two good numbers and 10 home runs. So seeing Ballesteros projected to hit more home runs than Nolan Casey is a bit surprising, but still, if you add those two numbers up, it's what? 18 home runs? Kyle Tucker hit 22 in 2025. The Cubs hit 223 in 2025. There is a gap there. How are the Cubs going to make this up? Doesn't look like it's going to come from internal options, so we should now explore those external options. Now, the Cubs only have $166 million committed to the 2026 team, leaving about 80-ish million to the first luxury tax threshold. Look, the Cubs have plenty of money. We'll see if they choose to spend it. I lean toward them not spending it, but let's take a look at a couple offensive options from the outside via free agency that the Cubs could use to fill the Kyle Tucker void. Now, the first one is a player who the Cubs saw in the postseason. That is Ryan O'Hearn. Now, 2025 was a very good season for O'Hearn. He had a 127 WRC+, hit 17 home runs. He is a left-handed hitter, had a 366 on-base percentage, 3 WAR, 832 OPS versus left-handed pitching, something that Kyle Tucker did very well and something the Cubs struggled with as a team. They were not that good against left-handed pitching. And he'll be on the cheaper end. You know, General Manager and President Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins, they are going to be looking for a cheaper solution, and this may be it. The only issue with Ryan O'Hearn, he's a first baseman in DH, two positions the Cubs really don't need additions with Michael Busch, Seiya Suzuki, Moises Ballesteros, but still, you add the best bat available, the best bats you can find, and you worry about a position later. I think Ryan O'Hearn would be a great first option. Now, outside of Ryan O'Hearn, these options start to get a bit expensive, something that the Cubs do not like to do. They do not like to spend money. They're one of the biggest teams when it comes to revenue you make and revenue you spend on the team. They do not put that revenue they make toward the team. Now, this next option, heavily linked to the Cubs an offseason ago, and that is Alex Bregman. Now, Bregman in 2025 did miss a bunch of time. He only played in 114 games, but still had a 125 WRC+, 3.5 WAR, a 273 average, and a 360 OBP with 18 home runs. That is a quality hitter right there. Alex Bregman, one of the elite third basemen in the game. The Cubs have Matt Shaw. He had an all-right rookie year, good second half, OPS in the 800s, struggled in the first half. If you can upgrade at the position, you do it. Bregman could also DH. You could platoon him with Shaw. This DH in the National League is very helpful for adding better bats, and I think Alex Bregman would be a great add. On the more expensive side, that could be an issue, but we will see. Now, getting into the more unlikely options, I put Cody Bellinger on here. Could we see a reunion with the Cubs? Probably not. Bellinger and Scott Boras are going to want a lot of money. But the numbers don't lie. After the Cubs basically salary dumped Bellinger for Cody Poteet to the Yankees, he put up a career year, or at least a career year since his MVP season back in 2019. Look, 29 home runs, a 125 WRC+, 4.9 WAR. He can play first base, he can play outfield, he can DH, and he hits left-handed pitching very well. Now, another teammate of Cody Bellinger is Trent Grisham, another free agent, who would be another great add as well. Grisham, 3.2 WAR. He had a 129 WRC+. He hit 34 home runs after being almost having a non-existent bat the previous few seasons. 348 on-base percentage. He plays outfield. He will be cheaper than Cody Bellinger. The one issue, unlike Bellinger and O'Hearn, Grisham cannot hit left-handed pitching. He had a 182 average and a 651 OPS in 132 at-bats in 2025 versus left-handed pitching. Look, Grisham, Bellinger, O'Hearn, they're all lefties. O'Hearn, Bellinger can hit lefties. Grisham, though, has more power, but is more so a one-sided player, a platoon bat. You're not going to hit him against lefties. Well, two more options here. You have Randall Grichuk, who had a horrible 2025 season, negative .4 WAR, a 273 on base, an 82 WRC plus. He only hit 9 home runs and had a 703 OPS versus left-handed pitching. Now, in his career, though, Grichuk has hit lefties. He has a career 118 OPS plus versus those southpaws. It wouldn't be the sexiest addition, but, I would take a buy low chance on a guy like Randall Grichuk. He could be your fourth outfielder and hit against lefties, something that this team has really struggled with. There's a lot of lefty bats. PCA, you have Michael Busch, who Craig Counsell refused to hit against left-handed pitching until the very end of the season, but still, against these power-throwing lefties, you don't feel confident with Michael Busch. You have Ian Happ, who can't really hit from the right side when he is turned around. It would be nice to have a guy like Grichuk. And the final option, how about a reunion with Kyle Schwarber? Now, this is probably the most unlikely scenario. I think Schwarber is going to stay in Philadelphia. He's going to get paid. I mean, I don't know what the secret is with Kyle Schwarber. He hit 56 home runs in 2025, a 4.9 WAR from a DH. That is almost unheard of unless your name is Shohei Ohtani. 152 WRC plus. If the Cubs can somehow find a way to bring Schwarber back, make him your full-time DH, put Seiya Suzuki back in right field, I think it would mostly make up for the Tucker loss and then some. So I think Schwarber would be a great option. Is it going to happen? Probably not. It would be fun to dream about, though. And look, we can talk all we want about free agents. Kyle Schwarber would be a great addition, but the Cubs have a logjam of position players currently on their roster, which could really hinder any chance at a free agent beyond price, something that will be a factor. If you look at the Cubs outfield, there is specifically a logjam there. You have Seiya Suzuki, Ian Happ, Pete Crow Armstrong, Kevin Alcantara, Owen Casey. 5 guys who right now on paper are fighting for 3 spots, barring any additional moves. And look, if you look at Happ and Suzuki, both of their contracts are up after the 2026 season. Same goes for Nico Horner and Jameson Taillon. This team has almost no money on the books after 2026, making it seem like now would be a perfect time to go all in on an outfielder, cough, cough, Kyle Tucker, but they won't do it. Another big issue as well is you could try to trade for an outfielder, but you have Seiya Suzuki and Ian Happ, both who also have no trade clauses, and that really hinders this team. Chances are you're not going to re-sign both Seiya and Happ after this offseason, meaning you'd likely want to trade one. But I highly doubt either Suzuki or Happ are going to want to waive that no trade clause. They both love it here in Chicago. And again, it really just limits what this front office can do in terms of creativity. You're not trading Nico Horner, Jameson Taillon. He well made that contract worth it with his 2 amazing playoff starts against the Padres and Brewers facing elimination. Look, Jed Hoyer has had to get creative. Tom Ricketts does not give him the financial freedom to go out and act like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Padres. He's had to get creative, but having this logjam of players is really going to hinder his ability to go out there, move some puzzle pieces, and make things happen. In better news, instead of talking about how this team has, limited financial and limited player flexibility, let's talk some hot stove. Now, the Cubs do have tradable assets due to this logjam of players. Let's talk about a couple trade fits. Now, the names I am going to mention are all pitchers, something that this team does need. Of course, Shota Imanaga was given the qualifying offer. We'll see if he takes it, but we're going to act like Shota Imanaga is gone. This team well needs 2 starting pitchers, knowing Justin Steele will not be back until at some point in the first half. And I'm going to give you 3 names right here. 3, I would say, pretty realistic trade targets. The first one is Mackenzie Gore. The second one is Joe Ryan. And the third one is Edward Cabrera. 3 names that were at the top of the Cubs list at the trading deadline. Of course, the prices were astronomical, but we have now reached the offseason. Those prices will have most certainly dropped. I want to talk about Mackenzie Gore first. He had a tale of 2 halves. He had a 4.17 ERA across the season, but of course it does not tell the whole tale. He had a 6.75 ERA in about 50 innings in the second half compared to a 3.02 pre-All-Star break record and ERA. Very high chase rates, 29.5, a 29% whiff rate, 27% strikeout rate. In the red there, just the second half did not go well for him. This was his career, I would say, summary of the season. He has a career 4.19 ERA, ended the season, like I said, a 4.17. A very Mackenzie Gore-like season. He has high highs, but very low lows. You go back to opening day, I want to say he struck out 15 Phillies. Very much impressed. He still has 2 years of control. Get him in the pitch lab with the Cubs. See what Tyler Zombro can do and get the most out of Mackenzie Gore. Now, the next pitcher I want to talk about is Joe Ryan, another name linked to the Cubs. Had a 3.42 ERA this season in 171 innings, a 28% strikeout rate, only a 5.7% walk rate. Two very good numbers right there. High strikeout rate, low walk rate, and he has 2 years of control left. Again, a power pitcher, something this staff is missing. You've seen that with Gore and now Joe Ryan. And you're going to see it again with a player like Edward Cabrera, who has 3 years of club control left, had a 3.53 ERA in 137 innings this past season, 30% strikeout rate. He had 30% chase rate, 29% whiff rate, and a 25% strikeout rate. He's dealt with injuries his entire career. He made 26 starts this year. That's the most he has ever made in a season. Again, you're taking a big risk. This is a lot like Jesus Luzardo last offseason with the Marlins. The Cubs had a deal. It did fall through. I think this time you have to take the risk on a player like Cabrera. The cost may be a bit higher because Peter Bendix, they're starting to build something in Miami, so you may have to pay a little bit more. But the Cubs have the assets. They were looking to make a trade like this, could not do it during the trade deadline, and I think they do it now. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in. This was the first of what will be a jam-packed offseason here at Second City Sports Network. Look, as the offseason goes on, we are going to recap everything, but right now we are in the dead point. About 5 weeks to go to the winter meetings. That's when stuff will pick up. The Cubs are rumored to be very active in the trade market on the high end for pitching. Something that you do not hear with this team. They are rumored to be in on your Dylan Ceases of the world, your Framber Valdez's of the world. This team is being rumored in on expensive pitching, something the Cubs have not done since Yu Darvish back in 2018, and we all saw how that worked out. Well, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.